Dear nature lovers, belated greetings on International Day for Biological Diversity. Just yesterday, that is on 22nd May, many countries of the world observed this day. And I think in some of the countries, this day is just getting over, uh, maybe North American countries. The central theme to observe this day in the year 2023 uh, is agreement to action, build back biodiversity. So, this is the central theme for observing this International Day for Biological Diversity this year. Friends, biodiversity is a term having very vast scope. It is not just about birds or wildlife. Actually, it covers plants too, and besides plants, it covers everything like insects and plankton and many other invertebrates. Uh, but unfortunately, many of nature lovers are attracted just by birds or some other charismatic wildlife at the wetlands. Uh, that is not bad. It is also good, but we should expand our vision. We should explore more at the wetlands. And one thing or one aspects on which we can focus at the wetlands is wetland plants or aquatic macrophytes or uh, hydrophytes. Okay. Hydrophytes or aquatic macrophytes are very important aspect, constitute very important aspect of wetland biodiversity. They play multiple functions in wetland ecosystem. They contribute to primary production in the wetland ecosystem. They contribute to formation of food web in the wetland ecosystem, and these plants also provide food or cover or habitat to many water birds and plethora of invertebrates which inhabit the wetlands. So, undoubtedly, these plants are extremely important in running an aquatic ecosystem or wetland ecosystem. And yes, we should not forget that they render aesthetic beauty to wetlands too. For example, just remember the beautiful flowers, pink flowers of lotus. Remember multiple colored water lilies. It can be scarlet color or purple or white, many colors if you look for the water lily. And even if you consider a weed, a so-called weed, water hyacinth, their flowers are very beautifully colored. So nothing in nature is actually weed, I believe. It is all with respect to our expectations and our needs, right? It is very unfortunate that we don't much explore about these plants, but we are very fast to label some aquatic plant as weed, and water hyacinth is the best example of it. Water hyacinth is actually, the research says that it is very useful in absorbing these heavy metals from polluted wetlands. So they are not just weeds actually. Because we pour our sewage into wetlands, they grow very fast, very rapidly, and then we label them, we blame them as weeds, right? So even if some plants become problematic to us with respect to our developmental expectation, uh, they can be managed. Their harmful side can be managed, and but for that it is very much necessary we try to understand them. We try to identify various aquatic macrophytes or hydrophytes. So the Foundation for Ecological Welfare, which is abbreviated as FEW, which is totally not for profit organization, has decided to mark this International Day for um, biological diversity by arranging a talk on hydrophytes or aquatic macrophytes. Um, Today, we have invited uh, one senior professor, Dr. Amita Tatu, who is functioning as an associate professor in Government College of Gujarat State, India. She has been teaching in undergraduate college since about 28 years. She had done her PhD at Space Applications Center (ISRO) and she carried out research on carbon cycle in agro ecosystems. So now, without taking much of your time, I invite Dr. Amita Tatu to talk on her topic, hydrophytes, unsung heroes of wetlands.
Thank you, Dr. Tatu, for introducing me. Hello, friends. Before starting my presentation formally, I would like to share some interesting video clips and photographs with you. Let me start with a video clip. What catches your attention in these video clips? I'm pretty sure the answer of most of you will be a bird. I also know that many of you tried to identify these birds. In the first clip, it was white-breasted water hen, and in the second one, bronze-winged jacana. But has anybody noticed where this bird is walking swiftly? In fact, if we think of putting ourselves in place of these birds, we are unable to walk on the surface of water. But this bird can do that. That is only because it has adapted to walk on the leaves of some aquatic plants, which you might have seen in the video clip. But could you identify that aquatic plant? But sometimes, when you visit a wetland, the bird life is really scarce, and whatever birds are present, either they are at a distance or they are not very appealing. In that case, attention of some of you can be diverted to beautiful flowers of some aquatic plants as seen in this picture. But can all of us identify that plant? These are the glimpses of some beautiful flowers of some aquatic plants. And if you are fortunate, you may come across such a heavenly scenario. You would find that there is no colorful bird, but entire wetland is covered with such brightly colored, gorgeous flowers. But what about if you come across such underwater vegetation full of leaves and no flowers? Could you identify any of these plants? Many of us cannot. Many of us not even bother to identify them. But such ignorance and lack of curiosity for aquatic plant is very unfortunate matter. Actually, these plants are primary producers in wetland ecosystem. They even form basis of many food chains operating in wetland ecosystem. They provide food or habitat to many of our water birds and numerous invertebrates. They contribute to nutrient trapping, water purification, and shoreline erosion control. Considering all such multiple functions, I thought that I should talk to you regarding hydrophytes, the unsung heroes of wetlands. You might have heard various terms like xerophytes, halophytes, mesophytes, and hydrophytes. Each term has its own meaning. For example, xerophyte means plants that can grow in areas with water scarcity or having arid conditions. Same way, halophytes means plants that can grow in saline conditions. In the same way, the term hydrophyte also has a particular meaning. The word hydrophyte consists of two words, hydro meaning water and phyte meaning plants. Laymen call these hydrophytes as aquatic plants. Actually, hydrophytes are the plants growing in water or on wet soil that at least periodically is deficient in oxygen due to excessive water content. Hydrophytes are also called aquatic macrophytes as they are large in size and they are vascular plants, means they have xylem and phloem. Some of us may have doubt whether or not algae are hydrophytes. In principle, algae occurring in wetlands are also hydrophytes as they live in water, but usually algae are neither macrophytes or and nor vascular plants. So usually the term hydrophyte is not used for algae. Now these hydrophytes grow in fresh water as well as in brackish water. In some wetlands, water quality changes seasonally, fresh water to brackish water, and their salinity remains 0.5 ppt, that is parts per thousands, or less than that from monsoon to winter when it is fresh water. But in summer, salinity increases due to increase in evaporation rate and changes to brackish water. The best example of this condition is Ramsar site, Nal Sarovar, situated in Gujarat. This wetland is famous for luxuriant growth of various hydrophytes like typha, Stachynia, najas, and sages, etc. Hence, the hydrophytes growing in these type of wetlands are well adapted to survive in such changing water quality. In a typical pond, the hydrophytes of different habitats are seen at different places with respect to with respect to shore. The shore area is usually called littoral zone. So here you can see littoral zone, which is often marshy in nature. In this zone, usually emergent hydrophytes predominate. Another zone is open water zone or open water area away from the shore is called limnatic zone. In this zone, free-floating submerged and rooted hydrophytes with floating leaves are predominant. So in this picture also you can see the two zones, littoral zone and limnatic zone. Here you can see towards shore you can see emergent vegetation, whereas in the limnatic zone you can find free floating and floating leaf and submerged plants. Free floating hydrophytes. So they are freely floating on the surface of water, and they have no connection with the bottom. That is, they are not rooted in the soil. So the examples of this kind are Eichhornia crescens, which is commonly known as water hyacinth. Another example of free floating hydrophytes is Pistia, which is commonly known as water lettuce. And again here you can see their roots, they are floating in the on the surface of water, and they have no connection with the soil. Another example is Wolffia, that is commonly known as watermill, and they are the smallest angiosperm. You can see the size. Then Lemna is again free floating plant, and it is commonly known as duckweed. You might have seen in some wetlands, they cover the whole surface of the water. You can find green mat like structure. Then another is Azolla, which is commonly known as mosquito fern, and it is a pteridophyte, as it is pteridophyte plant. So it is grown in the rice field along with the rice plant. Then Spirodella, you can see the size, it is larger than the other lemna. Then Salvinia, it is again pteridophyte, which is commonly known as water moss. Here you can see the Spirodella has the largest leaf size, then Landolcia, Lemna, Wolffia. Then there are rooted hydrophytes with floating leaves, means the roots are anchored in the bottom soil, and they have long petioles so that their leaves can float on the surface of water. So they are known as rooted hydrophytes with floating leaves. The common plants are Nymphia pubescens, that is commonly known as white water lily. Then Nelumbo nucifera, commonly known as lotus, which is our national flower also. Then Nymphia pubescens, but it is pink in color. Then Nymphia nauchali, which is commonly known as blue water lily, and in Hindi it is known as Nilofer. Then Trapa, which is commonly known as water chestnut, and here you can see the attractive leaf pattern, which is known as mosaic leaf pattern. Then Marsilia, it is again pteridophyte plant, and it is commonly known as water clover. Then submerged plants, submerged floating hydrophytes. So these hydrophytes, they are submerged, they are below surface of water, they are underneath, and they float below the surface of water. So the examples are Ceratophyllum, which is commonly known as hornwort or also known as spoontail. Then Utricularia, which is commonly known as bladderwort, and this is an insectivorous plant. You can see bladders in which they trap invertebrates or small insects or animals, and they digest it for their protein requirement. Some other examples are Najas, which is commonly known as guppy grass, water nymph or water nymph. Then there are submerged rooted hydrophytes. So these hydrophytes are below the surface of water, they are submerged, and their roots are anchored in the bottom soil. So the common plants are Hydrilla, which is commonly known as water thyme. Then Vallisneria, which is also known as steppe grass or eel grass. This Vallisneria, they have narrow ribbon-like long leaves. And Potamogeton nodosus, which is commonly known as long-leaf pondweed. And another species of Potamogeton, which is Potamogeton crispus. So they have this wavy margin. Then Otelia alismoides, that is commonly known as duck lettuce. So here you can see the leaves are somewhat folded. Now, rooted emergent vegetation. So these are found towards the shore, that is in limnatic littoral zone, and these plants they can grow when water is there in the wetland, or if water recedes, or they can also grow in waterlogged soil. Okay, so they are known as emergent plants. So the examples are limnophyton, which is also commonly known as blunt arrowhead, then Sirpa species, which is commonly known as rush, and Cyperus species, commonly known as sages. There are so many species of Cyperus. Then Ranunculus, which is commonly known as buttercup. So all these are emergent vegetation which are found on the shore of the wetland. Then Typha domingensis. So they give shelter to many birds. Now there are some other facultative water plants. So these plants are usually on the shore of the wetland, and if water is there they can survive, if water is not there they can also survive, and that's why they are facultative in nature. So the common facultative plants are Ipomea aquatica, which is also commonly known as water morning glory, Neptunia oleracea, which is known as water mimosa or sensitive water plant. It is like Mimosa pudica, which we commonly known as touch me not plant. So it is found in the water, and if it touch the plant, then the leaf fold inside. So that's why it is known as water mimosa. Actually, its scientific name is Neptunia oleracea. And Bacopa monieri, which is known as Brahmi, Jal Brahmi, we call it as Jal Brahmi. Then Ammonia beachifera, which is commonly known as monarch red stem. Then Hygrophila auriculata, which is commonly known as marsh barbel. Now there are different uses of these hydrophytes. First one is Typha domingensis, which is commonly known as cattail. We know it is an emergent plant. It is useful to many birds for resting, roosting, nesting, and foraging. It is also valuable as habitat for variety of invertebrates. Here we can see its leaves are used to cure dysentery, leprosy, ulcers, wounds. Its leaves are used as thatch material for rural houses, for making handicrafts, fodder for livestock. Flour is made of its tubers and used for preparing chapatis. It is used for bioremediation also, and birds inhabit it. Next one is Persicaria glabra. It is commonly known as common marsh buckwheat. It gives cover to small birds and invertebrates. Its roots are antibiotic, used in jaundice, piles, laxative, and as tonic. Stem is antibiotic, sedative, and tonic. Whole plant is used to cure fever and pneumonia. It is used as an indicator of waterlogging. Some species of Persicaria are used as spices in some Asian countries. Ceratophyllum demersum. It is commonly known as hornwort. It provides microhabitat to small invertebrates and fish. Whole plant can be used as coolant and for liver-related problems. It is very good plant which is used for aquaria, and it is also useful in biological control of harmful algae. Hydrilla verticillata, water thyme. It provides good quality habitat for fish and shellfish. Whole plant can be used to cure malaria as it absorbs heavy metals, so it is used in phytoremediation. Next one is Ipomea aquatica. It is commonly known as water morning glory. It is a good soil binder and it protects wetland shores from soil erosion. It is habitat for many invertebrates. Whole plant can be used to cure bronchitis, fever, jaundice, leprosy, leukoderma, and liver problems. This plant is also used for bioremediation. Its leaves form a tasty vegetable for humans. Otalia alismoides. This plant keeps water clean. It also provides habitat to many invertebrates. Its leaves are used to cure fever and some swellings. Its tender leaves are used as vegetable and its fruits are eaten by children. It is used for water quality improvement. Another aquatic plant is Oryza sativa. It is commonly known as rice. It provides habitat for invertebrates, also provides nesting material for sarus cranes and food for other water birds. Its roots are used to cure diabetes, fever, urinary bladder problems. As we know, it is one of the main food items of all over the world. Our next hydrophyte is Nilambo nucifera. As we all know, it is commonly known as lotus. As the leaves of this plant are very large, so some water birds use its leaves for food searching by walking on them. As we have seen in video, both white-breasted water hen and bronze-winged jacana, they were walking on the leaves of Nymphea. So same way, they also use the leaves of Nilambo. It also provides habitat for invertebrates. Its roots are used against piles, skin diseases. Flowers are used to treat asthma, diarrhea, abdominal cramps, and cardiac problems. Whole plant is used to treat liver problems, cough, eye diseases, fever, vomiting inflammations, leprosy, etc. Some parts of this plant are used in cosmetics. Leaves are used for making biodegradable plates. It provides food sources, means roots, stems, seeds, and leaves are used as food source. It is grown in garden ponds for aesthetic purpose. Water lily. The scientific name is Nymphea pubescens. As we have seen in video, some water birds use its leaves for food searching by walking on them. It also provides habitat for invertebrates. Its leaves can cure fever, malaria, rheumatism. Its roots are used to treat gynecological disorders. This plant is used for aesthetic purpose in garden ponds. It is also used in religious activities. It is a food source. Rhizomes are the source of tannins. You might have visited some wetlands which are full of hydrophytes and exhibit luxuriant growth. So management of these kinds of wetlands is a very difficult task. Often the water surface of entire lake or the wetland is covered with free-floating hydrophytes like water hyacinth, lemna, azolla, or submerged vegetation like hydrilla, potamogeton, vallisneria. and rooted hydrophytes with floating leaves like Nilambo, Nymphia, Trapa, Nymphoids, etc. You might have seen that in some wetlands, the surface of water is often covered with dead and decomposing hydrophytic vegetation mixed with algae. Hence, in such cases, aesthetic aspect of the wetland gets deteriorated. Due to dense growth of plants, boating and fishing become difficult. Even irrigation is also affected. Ecosystem processes like sunlight penetration and photosynthesis of submerged plants are also affected. So, for proper wetland conservation, regular control of excess hydrophytic vegetation is desirable. As every aquatic plant is different, before controlling, wetland managers should be able to identify various aquatic plants and understand their life cycle. They can control these hydrophytes manually, chemically, and hydrologically. But none of them are easy or without side effects. Manual control requires large amount of manpower for uprooting these plants. Hydrological control can be done by regulating water levels, either by raising or by lowering water level in the wetland. If we find thick vegetation of emergent plant Typha in any wetland, then its growth can be controlled by raising the water level. So this need expertise in this field. As chemical control requires chemicals like hydrothol, aquathol, etc. to be used in the wetlands, it is less preferred. It is recommended only if manual and hydrological controls do not work, as these chemicals pollute the wetland and also non-targeted life present in the wetland. There is biological control also, which is not mentioned in this slide. For example, growth of water hyacinth, that is Iconia, is controlled by an insect known as weevil. Hence, hydrophyte management is very important aspect of conservation of any wetland and needs skilled persons for it. I hope after watching this presentation, many nature lovers would now observe these ecologically important hydrophytes when they visit wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amita Tatu. It was a very informative talk by you. You not only shared your knowledge about uh, various hydrophytes that commonly occur in wetlands, and these, as you said, these macrophytes have different habits. Like some of them are emergent, some are floating lived, some of them are free floating, etc. And you also very wonderfully describe the various uses of these aquatic macrophytes or hydrophytes. In future, we would be eager to listen to you regarding various morphological and anatomical adaptations in these plants, because the ordinary plants cannot survive in wetlands. Okay, so thank you once again, and I appeal all the viewers to by considering this year's theme of International Day for Biodiversity, which is Build Back Biodiversity. By slightly modifying, I would appeal to all of you that please build back plant diversity in our wetlands. Thank you.